Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Superpower of Confidence podcast, where I talk to my guests about the concept of confidence and how it differs from fake confidence like arrogance or other stuff, and how do we find true confidence. Everybody is at different stages in their journey. And today, my guest is Chris Darwa.
Hello.
Welcome, Chris.
Hi, Ben. Thanks for having me here.
Chris is a good friend of mine, and I'll let him introduce himself. So, Chris.
Yeah. I'm Chris Darwa. I'm an Australian-born comedian, stand-up comic. Residing in Zürich, Switzerland. Been doing this for years now. We started pretty much together in Switzerland. I've worked in a bunch of different countries. I've been a speaker in TEDx. Besides that, I also write. I'm a writer. I've done plays and some small things. Been a bit of an actor sometimes. I'm kind of a jack of all trades.
Chris, I gotta say, when I met you, you were a bit of a mess.
Was I?
Yes.
I thought it was pretty good.
No.
No, yeah, I was.
You're a bit of a mess.
Mm-hmm.
You checked all the boxes of the mess.
Of the mess. Okay.
I don't know. Well, we can reveal you had some addictions.
Had a few addictions. Yeah.
And I noticed your transformation from going from mess to, I'm going to say it, you're one of the most stable people that I know today.
Really?
Yes.
Gee, it is.
That's why I wanted to have you here, is to talk about these things, because I'm one of the big believer that your story can inspire a lot of people. So thank you for being so open about this episode of your life.
Yeah.
How long was this episode? It was a long episode, no?
Jesus. I would say probably from when I was about 14. 14 would be my that would be the first real substance abuse kind of situation, which is like a mixture of I'm Australian, so the culture is drinking, and you go to your first party and you just drink everything in sight because it's like, woohoo, first party. There's a bit of that, but also
alcohol counts.
Yeah, that was the first thing, because I was never. But the thing is, I was never. It was the first thing I get my hands on. You know what I mean? I was never a drinker to enjoy. I was always a drinker to get drunk and sort of pass out or black out. Like when I was 18, I could finally go to clubs. I'd start the night with 6 gin and tonics because they'd have $2 drinks in Australia. So I'd just load them up and slam them back, and then I'd wake up in some weird places. That was where it really kind of kicked off, was with alcohol. It took a long time to even recognize that, because it's you just think I'm just drinking, but then you notice other people aren't waking up in car parks and stuff. You know what I mean? That's a different, different kind of drinking for sure.
So you started then, and I guess you just kept continuing.
The more stuff I could get my hands on, the more I would do. And it was what was weird was that I had initially a real strong, I say real strong, it was a strong ego about never, I might, I was classic, I might try weed, but I'm never going to become addicted to it, or I won't do this drug or that drug. And then you just start and you're like, well, I didn't really feel anything. And then you go again and you're like, oh wow, I don't have to think, this is awesome. And then you just go right into it. So it's weed, weirdly enough, weed was something I did a lot of, and then I got super depressed, and then I discovered pills, and I was like, fuck weed, now I'm on pills like ecstasy and stuff. And then I became I wouldn't drink alcohol anymore. You go through intense swings where you're in extremes, you're I'm not doing that thing anymore, I cut that thing out, but I still have this thing, this is my new thing. Okay. So it's I don't do that anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, this is okay. Yeah. In fact, I remember one time I was working a job, and I was going to a Christmas party for the job, and as we're going to the party, I was car sharing with 3 other guys from the job, from work. It was a sales job thing, and as we're going, they were one of the guys was like, oh, you gonna have a few drinks and stuff? And I was like, no, I don't drink. And then
you were high on coke or
something?
Dude,
no. Well, one of the guys in the car, he turns around and he goes, oh, you like them pills though, eh? And I was like, how the fuck did he know? He just nailed me right in there. He's like, I'll get you some water, mate. You know what I mean? He just knew exactly what the situation was. And it was really tripped me out that he understood that. Obviously, because you're young and you think you're the only one who's ever done something like this or going through it. So, but yeah, he nailed me pretty good on that one. and then there's swings of like, okay, I'm not doing this, that, the other, and then you get into a bunch of other things, and then coming to Switzerland, Coke was something I'd only ever tried, but then it was like I'd never really gotten into it. But then I got to Switzerland, and that's where I was like, woohoo, and just went right off the rails because it's so easy to get here. Because I used to like instruct spin and stuff, right? Like I used to be a spin instructor, so I would have I would be doing Coke before I was teaching those classes. Like I'd be like,
oh my God, I cannot imagine a spin instructor on Coke.
Imagine it. just imagine a spin instructor, and that's basically it. Like all that enthusiasm, like, come on guys, we can do it. Like that's all just Coke.
That's
really.
his kit.
Dude, probably like, it was ridiculous though, because I'd be like, I'd do bumps before I'd go out, and then I had this water bottle, and I'd pour some Coke into the water bottle, so as I'm teaching the class, I'd be like, go,
Coke as you're teaching
as I'm teaching the class, and everyone's like, you have so much energy. I'm like, yeah, I'm fucking awesome, I know. And really enthusiastic, this teacher we got, he's great. He really turns that music up loud. But then everyone I've met afterwards is like, you could have died. I'm like, I know, right? Yeah, like that's kind of the point. No, I was never wanting to die, but it was just the naivety, because you think when you're doing Coke every day, you think, I got this, man, I'm gonna be fine, and then you go in there and you smash out a couple of spin classes, smashed off your face. But it was either that at that point as well. This is before the sobriety and everything, obviously, but this is when I was doing gym instructing. Like I was working for a gym, and I couldn't go into work sober. I fucking hate it. I get up in the morning, I would hit a bong, like I'd rip, like weed out of a, bongs, right? Yeah. Sorry, sometimes I don't know if you're how up to date with the lingo you are with the kids, but I'd be ripping a bong, and I'd go into work, and I'd either be doing some Coke at work or some what are they like? Prescription medication. So modafinil, that kind of stuff. The Silicon Valley stuff. I had access to a bunch of those, and I was just like, go, go, go. But they could never quite. They have like, especially when you're used to doing Coke, they have like a limitation for how high they get you, like how sped up. So if you got like, it's annoying. But like, so it would always be something. And then once I had Coke, it was just like,
was it? You start the night and you think this is what's gonna make it a good night, or
no? There's no thought. You just like, how do I? Okay, now I don't need to deal with anything. I just put this down and just have a good time. The good time is being removed from your ego and all the thoughts circling around your head. So whatever you can get, however you can get away from that is good. But it's like the funny thing about that is there's like an underlying thing which kind of underpins it all the whole way through, which we'll get to in a little while. But just at that point in time, it's just about like, hey, how can I stop all the little voices in my head from criticizing me? That'd be great. Woohoo! Yeah.
There's definitely a thing with substances that it's like a crutch of confidence. It's it gives you fake confidence in the sense that in the moment you feel you're very in tune with your, with your first thoughts and your impulses and stuff.
Yeah.
But do you find that it works for a while and then it stops working?
Depends on the substance, I think. Well, I mean, all of them have, withdrawals and problems. Some of them are easier to feel that from. Like, for example, weed, you don't really notice anything. And it's not... Weed is like, it's that same... It's the same. There's like a psychological underpinning the whole way through all of them. You're feeding whatever those motivations are. That's the key. Again, that whole thing I refer to, feeling like trash. It's like that's the key thing. And if you're feeling kind of shitty anyway, if life is kind of shitty, then sometimes it's like that's the thing. Sometimes you don't even really crave it. The weird thing for me personally was my most dangerous time was not when I was low, because then I'd be depressed, because then I could wallow in the depression, and that would be kind of feeding that thing a little bit.
Okay.
My dangerous time was when I'm like, wow, life is good. Let's keep this party going.
Right.
You know what I mean? I feel amazing. I feel so good. I'm on top of everything. I'm doing this, that, and the other. Let's fucking crank it up another notch. And really what I'm saying is, I'm doing really well, and I'm terrified because I don't know how this is. I'm not used to this feeling. I need to really fucking bring it back down to a point where I feel horrible again.
Yeah.
If I had a really good set, that's why it's funny. I remember in the first year of knowing you when we did the Mundwerk show, right? It was our first kind of big show, and afterwards I'm just like full of self-loathing and hate, and you're like, don't beat yourself up so bad, you're okay, and I'm like, kind of need to. So if I'm really happy about what I did, this could go a real bad place. And then, funnily enough, I had a chat, and I'm like, oh, I feel much better now. And then a friend invited me out. I'm like, yeah, let's go out. And I went out, and I just went on a couple of day bender, and it was fucking awful again.
Okay.
And that's the thing. It's always, for me, it was always pulling back from the brink of feeling okay and feeling some kind of contentment or feeling like I was happy. It was just like, can't be here. Got to pull it back.
Right. So, okay. So you've said a few times now that it's this underlying feeling of feeling like trash.
Yeah.
But there was a moment in your life when you decided, okay, enough. Like, I'm going to try to, I'm going to try to fix this.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? Was it that you were at a dead end?
It would be lovely for me to say I had a come to God moment, but I really didn't. Like, I really didn't. Sorry,
this
Jesus.
For our Christian listeners.
I know. Sorry, man. No, I.
Right, we're finished.
Is that all you have as Christian listeners?
Jesus
doesn't save, unfortunately. But
he does.
He does. Okay. It was a cumulative effect. It was like I had several different moments where I was like, well, one was having a child, like having a daughter, where it's like she was the first thing where I'm like, I need to be sober to be around this person. I can't have a kid and be messed up when I'm around them. Once they're away, because the mother and I went together, once they're not around me, I can be as fucked up as I want. But whenever I'm near her, I need to be sober. So that was the first step. And then comes comedy, and it's like every time I would get better at comedy, something would like pull me back and show me that I wasn't actually getting as good as I thought. Like going to Edinburgh the second time, I was really good at getting on stage loaded and like just talking to people, just improvising in the space and the moment, working the crowd. But if a crowd was there that wanted material, I would bomb like a motherfucker because I had none, because I hadn't been writing, I hadn't been working, I'd just been getting fucked up and going on stage. And you can be the life of the party until people expect something real from you, and then it's like you've collapsed. So seeing that was a big smack in the face. And also at Edinburgh, it was like I was having, at the worst, it was like I'm having 1 pint or a half pint before my first show, another one before my second show, third show. And by like 8 p.m., I've already had like 5 or 6 drinks, and I'm smoking the whole way through. And then we go out drinking afterwards. Everyone's finished their shows. Some shows don't even finish till 1 in the morning. And then you go off and you're smoking weed and you're all sorts of stuff. So it was like doing that every day. 2 weeks after like 2 to 3 weeks of that, I'd start waking up and I just had like my hands would be shaking until I'd had a drink, and I'm like, this isn't good. And I'm trying to like exercise and be healthy alongside doing that. It's like, this is not helpful at all. And then the last thing where it really started ticking over was seeing Judah Friedlander, because we saw him here live, and I'm watching this guy do 80 minutes like it's 20. And all he's had is mineral water, and I'm sitting there high, and I'm just looking and going, fuck, if I ever want to be anything like that, I can't be recovering.
You were high at that show?
Dude, fuck yeah, I was. Of course. Really? Yeah, I went out and smoked a huge joint, like right before the show started, and I'm like, yes! And then I'm like, I cannot be like this if I want to be like that. So there were other things along the way. It wasn't as clean as that, but it just... I had like it was like a bubble almost, like an impulse building across time that like if I wanted to really... achieve what I believed in my heart I could achieve, or be the person I thought I was worth being, but just never felt I had embodied. Yeah. Then I needed to stop doing these things because otherwise it wasn't going to work. Okay.
So it was a cumulative bunch of things.
Oh yeah, probably across like I'd say like a good 6 to 8 months.
And to make that decision, 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, to like actually decide, okay, I'm going to do it.
Okay, it was not the moment.
Yeah.
Like you've seen the movies.
No. I mean, I had, believe me, I can't remember which comedian it is. He has a great line about this. I can't remember who it is. But basically, I had a lot of rock bottoms, like a lot. And there's a comedian who has this line that like, when you hit rock bottom, you find out that bottom's pretty soft. It's got a lot. It's got a lot of give. It's true, man. I had so many, and then, funnily enough, it was going to England for an audition and for some shows in when was it? October? Must be October 2018. And I was over there, and I was like, instead of buying weed, which would be my first thing, I just was like, maybe I won't. And then I went on stage, and for some reason, I had an impulse to talk about like just going sober. I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'm just going to go sober now. And the set went really well. And then I was like, well, now I've told people I'm doing this. People came up to me afterwards and were like, that was really cool. It was really like, people don't normally talk about that in a way that's funny. So And I was like, okay, well, I've said it and it's been funny. So if I'm going to do this, because you think when you hear something, when something works, you're like, well, now I've got material.
Yeah.
But like, I'm like, well, this is going to be material. I have to live it, because I can't like say this on one hand, then go out with everyone after and be like, hey, let's get fucked up. Because it wasn't about like the other but the people coming to me and talking to me afterwards. So then I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to try this now and see. And I did it in October, at the start of October. So when I started saying it, everyone's like, oh, you're doing Sober October. I'm like, no, this is my thing. I'm special. Fuck you. I like, so that was annoying. But it's just one of many challenges.
It's people ruining.
I know. I thought that was so special.
Moment.
I know. It was all about me.
Okay.
But no, yeah. So that was kind of the culminative time frame. Yeah. That when it happened.
Okay. So then for, what happens once you decide to go through lives and socialize and you decide not to have substances?
Fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Really,
How bad does it suck?
Oh my god, because you start, like, I started recognizing it wasn't the substance itself, it's all the communal aspects of it that you miss. Standing around with all the comics sharing a joint. You can't do that anymore, Corona, by the way. But like before, when you're all standing around sharing a joint or having drinks with people, and the smoking weed at home on my own, I didn't miss that as much, because you can find other things that start occupying your time. But the initial little while is weird. It's funny, man. I thought like the first 6 weeks, if I could just clear. Well, I failed. I don't know if I've told you that story, right?
So yeah.
So it wasn't like a clean break and I'm good. I stopped in October and I got 6 weeks in and I thought, I'm fucking killing this. And then I had a friend of mine who I hadn't seen in a long time, and we hadn't seen each other in such a long time, in fact, that we'd never really gone out and gotten fucked up together. And he's like, come on, let's just do it one time. And I'm like, yeah, all right, one time, it'll be great. And so we went out and we got like some wine and Coke. It's not a good combination.
So you said that, first of all, it fucking sucks when you stop doing drugs, because you miss the social aspects.
Yes.
But I'm kind of, from having witnessed your journey, that's a lot more than just missing the social aspects. It's like, it's your own internal suffering.
Well, that's the thing, is that the first 6 weeks, which I thought I'd nailed until that friend of mine got here, they were mostly about coughing up. You just coughing, because I was smoking weed every day and with cigarettes sometimes. You're just coughing up copious amounts of shit because your throat's so irritated.
Right.
But then once I was through that, I was like, oh, I'm feeling pretty good. And then did some DMT, and then did like I said, had wine and Coke with a friend. And then after that, though, we ended up that night getting into a huge fight, like massive. Like we almost at each other. It was really bad. And
wow, that sounds fun.
Yeah, it was awful. But it was like, it's a good thing to like have that as your last drug experience and be like, I don't need that again. That's not. But like, I had that thing. Are
you
too.
Still talking to him?
Oh yeah, we're great friends. But just that night in particular, like it had that thing too. We have like the bill rolled up for the nostril, and you're going to snort it. And as you're going, your brain's like, don't. You can feel it. You can feel the voice just being like, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't. Yeah. And you're just like, but that voice was really loud. I just chose to ignore it that night because it was like, But like, so after that comes, then I'm like, okay, well, I've already done 6 weeks. I can do that again. Then comes the psychological breakdown, where all your coping mechanisms and everything you've been using the substances to hold at bay comes fucking crashing down. That damn wall breaks, smashes on top of you, and you feel like you're losing your mind. Like I had to like go see some people, and that was a really difficult time. Like everything about that was horrible. And also just life seemed to be like, all right, you want this change, let's see how bad you want it. It took like I had no job, I had no money, I had no prospects of a job at the time coming in. I was breaking down mentally. The small amount of savings I did have, I had this movie opportunity, like a lead part in a film that I was auditioning for, and I used all my money to audition for this, and I got right to the end and then failed. I injured my back training, so I couldn't. I had nerve impingement, so I couldn't like sit or stand. It was constant pain, and I just had nothing at all. I remember being in London trying to buy some food for the way home, and my card being declined, and all my cards being declined because they'd all been maxed out, and I still had to get a train to Luton to fly home. And I'm like, I don't know how the fuck I'm gonna do this. I was just like that was a real rock bottom, and I was sober at that point. So I was like like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? You've made the change.
What's the point of being sober?
Yeah, you think, yeah, exactly. But really, it's like, it's kind of like life every now and then crushes you from every conceivable angle. It takes away every coping mechanism you have, the exercise, your money to, you're just spending things, your ability to live frivolously, your bills being paid, everything just gets taken away. And it's like, let's see if you can handle it. And if you can, which, you know, everyone can, they just got to sort of work through it piece by piece, then you come out better and stronger. But it fucking is such a crush at that point in time. And mentally, you're just, all the usual things the chemicals your brain relies on to deal with this shit, not there. So it's just empty. You got nothing. You just got to find a way. And that's really like, yeah, that sucks. But you get better.
I mean, today, where are you on this journey of your own? You know, you're feeling like trash with yourself, or is it something you're still working with?
Yeah, you're always
on.
Well, you know, I'm doing therapy, and that's always a challenging. It's always a challenging environment, but that's kind of the point. You want it to be. You don't want to go to therapy and be like, "Well, that was nice." It's like going to the gym. I don't go there for it to be. Sometimes it needs to be, you know, you're doing yoga or something. It's like a more pleasant experience, but you go there to feel like you've worked a little bit and to feel there's a progression, right?
Well, okay. Maybe that's why it's not working for me.
I just sit down for 20 minutes.
I never realized that.
But it's like what the thing that I didn't expect, and there's two things that have become really surprising to me, especially the last year. One is that I've developed boundaries. So through a mix of personal work and sobriety and all the rest of the things that come with it, I've started developing boundaries as a human being, which I think maybe I was describing this to you the other day, but it's a very unusual feeling for me. Like, I've gone through most of my life feeling honestly like I was up here and I didn't have any skin. Like, I was just kind of amorphous, if that makes sense.
Right.
But then especially over the last 6 months and some of the therapy work and stuff, I've really pulled together, I feel like an embodied human being, which is very new. A strange thing to not feel, but and with that comes a solidness, a foundation underneath your feet, a feeling of ground, which is like, it's the same as building like a set. When you have an act and a set, you have a foundation which gives you the confidence and the ability to do other things on, you know, in open mics, whatever, to just try things because you know you have this foundation. Similarly with this, doing the personal work, not being a slave to any particular addictions, becoming more of a workaholic and putting those things and improvement things like reading and just writing and all the doing the work essentially has given me a solid foundation. I'm certainly not infallible at all. We all do things, but I haven't slipped back into any of those particular behaviors, which is, and I don't foresee it. Like, I'm 2 years sober now, which is something I never thought I'd say. I didn't even intend for it to be a lifelong thing or like even something I would do for X amount of years. I just was like, I wonder if I can do it for a year. Let's see.
Yeah.
And then as I was doing it, some other people came to me and were like, hey, you seem to have done this. I kind of have a bit of trouble with this. Can we talk about it? And then it's like what you're doing becomes bigger than just you. Yeah. Because if you can help one other person with it, it's suddenly you're responsible beyond yourself, which I think is a key thing. Being able to do, I think that's why the sponsors.
Isn't it overwhelming if you feel responsible for other people's sobriety?
No, because it's like, as with comedy, as with exercise, as with any particular skill, and if you want to call sobriety a skill, you can. There are things that you learn by experience and you embody, and that your learning becomes embodied. But until you can articulate it outside of your own brain, it's not fully formed. And I found that one of the best ways to understand something better is to be explaining it to someone else, because when you can bring it out of your kind of, you know, that kind of blob that it becomes, then you have to crystallize it in a real sense. You understand it better because you're pulling it into something material, not just thoughts in your head. So I found that to be rather rewarding and expanding rather than oppressive in any way.
Okay.
It's been kind of nice.
Hence the very stable Chris Darwa.
It's weird, yeah. It's weird to hear myself refer to that. My family wouldn't believe it if you message them. We're like, hey, I've got this guy. He's really stable. They'd be like, I can't be. No, exactly.
Not a Darwa.
No, the last time I was in Australia, it was years ago now. It's been a while, but like I was just going out with a friend and they're like, don't come back at 3 a.m. I'm like, why would you think that I would go crazy and do that? I'm like, well, you know what you like. I'm like, no, fuck you. I'm really. That's the hardest thing is when people that don't know you or haven't seen you for a long time refer to who they remember you as, and you have to like. It's a little bit of like but it's also kind of at first it's because you're trying to move away from it. But by the time you've moved away, you're like, oh, that's how I used to be. Well, it's not me anymore. It's that foundation again. It's like you're walking with solid ground underneath you, and that's it's worth so much. It's worth everything. It's worth more than any substance or high. Honestly, it's like I used to actually say to myself and other people, I'd be like, there's nothing more intense than just living life. It's like it's the hardest thing I can imagine. That's why I do drugs, is just to cope with regular living. It's like being high all the time. It's so hard. But it's like anything. When you start doing it, you get a little bit better at it, and you just learn, just cope with it. And weirdly enough as well, when you're sober, things that before were like, would be like, you'd be beset by things, you know what I mean? You'd be like, oh, why is this happening to me? And you just fucking whatever you can to get away from it. Whereas now those problems and those challenges, you look at as challenges instead of misfortune. You look at it as like, oh, okay, well, here's a fucking thing. Let's see how I deal with this. And that's because you've got the ground. You can fucking launch yourself from there. It's a way better way to, at least for myself, it's been a much better way to approach life. I've been able to do more with it. It's been nice.
That sounds like a good positive note to end this podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thanks, Chris, for sharing your story.
No problem.
Thank you for listening to the Superpower of Confidence podcast. If you want to find out more about Chris or get in touch with him, find him on his Facebook page, facebook.com/Chris Darwa. If you want to find out more about me, book me as a trainer, speaker, moderator, or comedian, go to bendelahaye.com. All the links will be in the show notes. Subscribe to the podcast if you've enjoyed it. Until next episode, take care, everybody.